to the cloud.
There you go.
I still don't know that I fully understand the concept of the cloud, but I know it's up there somewhere.
Well, welcome everyone. My name is Jon Brenneman. I'm the president here at MOAA Vacations, and we're joined today by Joanne Taylor with Rocky Mountaineer to talk about a group we've put together for the Canadian Rockies for this coming summer. Thank you everyone for attending. As we do with all of our webinars, we are going to tape this webinar. I will mention this again at the end in case anybody comes in late. But just so you know, as you're listening to the webinar, we are taping it. Once we're done, there's a few gyrations, but we'll upload it to our MOAA Vacations. We actually have our own YouTube channel now. Didn't have one in 2020. We've been doing a couple of these a month, it seems like. So we will upload it to the YouTube page. We will actually send everybody an email with that link. So as we're going through this, if we say anything of interest or whatever, I always like to say we started, right on time. So if we're 35 minutes in, whenever it might be, and either Joanne or myself say something that is of interest to you or something you want to go back and review earlier, just kind of make a note at the time. And then when you get the tape, it's pretty easy to know that if, at 35 after the hour, we say something that you're interested in, when you get the tape, you can just forward to that time on the tape and revisit it. We did have someone ask us a question before we got started. I always bring this up, but on any of the trips we do for MOAA, and we really basically have three different types of trips. We have individual travel, which is where you'll call up and you'll say you want to do the Canadian Rockies, but let's say that you want to go in June or September or sometime when we don't have a group. So individual travel, and we do that, and we can do that with any cruise line or any tour company. And then we have group travel, which is what we're going to talk about today, where we actually, and groups are one of the more popular things that we do. Over half the people that call us to book a trip will actually ask, is there a MOAA group going, like if I wanted to do, let's say an Alaska cruise and I wanted to go this summer, members call up and they'll say, we're looking to go on an Alaska cruise on, say, Holland America. Are there any groups available? So we have a lot of groups available, and we obviously are going to talk about one of those today, which is a great added benefit, I guess I would say, because of the camaraderie of traveling with your fellow MOAA members. And we did one of these last year with Rocky Mountaineer. During COVID, it was actually down in the States. It was from Denver to Las Vegas, and we had our own train car. So everyone on the train car was actually a MOAA member, and in opportunities like that. And we're hoping we get enough people this year to know that we can do the same thing. It's great. I always like to say, it's like when you get on the train, even the people you don't know are friends you just haven't met yet. If you've been to other MOAA events, either chapter or state conventions or the annual convention, you know what it's like to show up at a MOAA event. And I'm sure it's the same for any military reunion type group. But even the people you don't know, you have a shared background. So the groups are wildly popular. And then the third type of travel that we have would be our signature groups. And I alluded to that before. And the signature groups are kind of what I like to call groups on steroids. And basically what it is, it's a group for MOAA members and their guests. But we also have MOAA leadership and staff on board to ensure that it's a worry-free vacation. And a lot of times those are exclusive events. For example, this summer we have a Douro River cruise that's going to Portugal, where we've actually chartered the entire ship. So when you get on the cruise, every guest you run into will be a MOAA member or a MOAA guest, which is my long way of circling back to what I was going to say. The question that we got before we got started was, can I bring friends who aren't MOAA members? Everything that I just talked about, the individual travel, the group travel, the signature groups, anything we do is for MOAA members and their guests. So if you're going, you can bring friends or family with you. They are entitled to all of the MOAA amenities. They are entitled to all of the MOAA savings, and they're very welcome to go on any of the groups. You can bring as many people as you want. In fact, we have people that put together their own groups, the multi-generational family groups, as one example, where the grandparents, the parents, and the kids will all go on a group, and we can set up a group just for you, or we do groups for chapters or state COCs, or we can do a group for you and your friends. So as long as you're going, anything that we offer to a MOAA member is offered to your guests. And this takes a lot of different forms. Obviously, today we're going to talk about a group departure. It seems like almost every group departure we have at least one or two guests will bring friends along. So it isn't even a unique thing. But we have special benefit amenity programs set up. And for example, Oceana Cruises. With Oceana Cruises, MOAA members get a $200 onboard credit on any Oceana cruise they book, any destination, any date. Those type of universal MOAA exclusive offers are available to MOAA members and their guests. So if you bring your friends along with you on an Oceana cruise, you both get a $200 onboard credit. If they go on an Oceana cruise without you, they don't get it. So that's kind of how the whole benefit thing kind of works. So I think that kind of answers that question. So that's really kind of all I was going to have. I'm going to talk a little bit more at the end, but what I wanted to do is, since today we're talking about a specific group departure, is make sure that we took plenty of time for Joanne to go through, tell us a little bit more about Rocky Mountaineer, why Rocky Mountaineer is the company you want to use to see the Canadian Rockies. The group that we have is Gold Leaf Service. I'm sure Joanne will talk a little bit about what makes Gold Leaf Service special and why you absolutely want to travel that way. And then we're going to go through day by day of the tour, sort of like a virtual tour, if you will, where we'll go through each day, kind of let you know where you were, where you're going to be, and what you can expect to see that day. So I'm really looking forward to that. We are somewhat limited on space to begin with. So we do ask that to let us know as soon as possible. When we did last year's, we actually sold out during the show or right after the show, but we were able to add more space. But we will not go past one train car. And I think we had 124 people, something like that, sign up for the webinar today. Obviously, all those people aren't on right now. And all those people want to purchase. But if you do want to go, just give us a call. You can drop us an email or give us a call at any time during the webinar once you make that decision. I'll talk a little bit more about the very end. I do know Joanne is going to talk some about COVID. I know we talked about that. Real brief, if those of you who got early, where I was kind of talking about COVID with cruises, but I think it's important. If you have any questions at the very end, we'll do a Q&A. We'll answer all the questions you have, or you can absolutely call if you have any questions about travel, COVID or destinations or any of those types of stuff. You know, we have a lot of great people that work here, travel professionals that are very up to date on this. If you want to, you can call me directly and ask me any questions. But I'm going to, if you want to book, you're going to be better served going on our agents who does it, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Joanne, who's going to talk to us today about the Canadian Rockies and our group departure. So Joanne, after that long introduction, take it away.
Thank you. And hi, everybody. And I appreciate you spending time with us today. And I appreciate the opportunity Jon has given us to do this group and to speak to you today. So, Rocky Mountaineer has been doing the Canadian Rockies for over 30 years. So unfortunately, we celebrated our 30th anniversary a year before last, and we didn't move our trains around very much that year. But yeah, we're back up and running as of late last season. And it just feels so good to be out into the mountain air and exploring these areas once again. Now, the itinerary that Jon picked is what we call First Passage to the West. So the departure is August 21st through the 28th of this year, which is a great time to go because a lot of us are going to be escaping the hot weather in August and going up to the refreshing higher altitudes. And it just also is kind of the start of the season, the fall season in the Rockies. So I just think it's a wonderful time to travel up there. So what we're going to do is we're going to depart from Vancouver. And I know many of you have been to Vancouver before. It's one of my favorite cities. The downtown area is on a peninsula, and your hotel is right in the middle of this peninsula. So it's within walking distance of so many things and activities that you can do. We're staying at the Sheraton Wall Center. And you can see their tallest tower here. Look at those beautiful views. I mean, it's such a spectacular city because you're surrounded by mountains and you're looking out onto the sound. So there's so many wonderful activities there. The day you fly in, you're kind of on your own except for check-in. And then the second day, we're going to put you on a little tour to the North Shore. And the North Shore is across the sound from downtown. And we'll be going up to a beautiful state park, provincial park, where they have the Capilano Suspension Bridge. So we'll spend some time there. It's got some great little museums there. If you really want to go across the bridge and explore treetops, you have enough time to travel from tree to tree where you'll see wildlife that you never see from the ground level, right? You know, I'm talking about primarily birds, but it's really quite fascinating. And then we'll travel on to Grouse Mountain. From Grouse Mountain, you have the most spectacular view over the city, the surrounding mountains, and oh my gosh, just the whole sound out there. So there's no view like that in the world. And if you are adventurous, yes, we'll put you on these wonderful cars to take you to the top where the view is absolutely optimum. So after that day, you have the rest of the day and the evening, and then in the morning, what we're going to do, you'll be staying in your hotel at the Sheraton, and we're going to ask you to pack up your bags, leave them inside your room, and lock your room and come down to the transfer bus. In the meantime, while you're still in your room, or possibly right after you leave, we're going to be pulling your bags and we're going to bring them down to the motor coach, and you're going to be whisked off a couple of miles to our train station. We have our own train station there, so you're not going to be mixing with the general public, which I think is important these days. But seeing off the train in Vancouver, which is where our home office is, you know, it's always an event. Our employees park at the station for free, and we shuttle them into the office downtown so they don't have to pay for parking. So they all hang around and see the train off, which is a lot of fun. So we are going to have you identify your bags at the train station. When you arrive, we'll pull them off the motor coach, and then we're going to transfer them to a truck. And the truck is going to take off for your next destination, which is Kamloops. So welcome aboard. What a great train experience. So what it's like on the train is, okay, it's an all daylight train. The reason for that, we never sleep on the train because we're not traveling that far. And if we were to travel at night, you would just miss so much in the darkness. So you'll be traveling by day. You can see on the left, there is a picture of your gold leaf car. Everything on the train is inclusive. So you'll be getting breakfast and lunch daily, 3 courses for each meal. And each train car has its own kitchen. So it's quite a great culinary experience. And you'll be traveling along with your host, who will be pointing out the sites along the way. They will be serving you. And because I said it's all inclusive, you know, we've got full bar on the train with alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. We have snacks throughout the day, and you're very well fed at your meals. Now, at the end of the day, we'll be pulling into a train station, and we have it so well choreographed that the train pulls into the station, and a motor coach pulls up right beside your train car, and host hops off the the motor coach and onto the train car, and they will hand out your room keys as you're disembarking the train. So you're getting your room key, you're taking 5 steps off the train onto a waiting motor coach. The motor coach will whisk you off to your hotel, and you can bypass the front desk. And let me tell you, this is really important when you get to a hotel like Chateau Lake Louise, where there can be long lines at the front desk. But you'll bypass that, go to your room, open your door, and voila, there's your bag sitting there waiting for you. So we try to make the train travel as easy as possible for you. So I have my nightmares about boarding high-speed trains in Europe and trying to get myself and my bags on before it starts again. So anyway, we recognize that and want to make it easy. So here's a look at your custom designed bi-level coach. So what you're seeing at the top is where everyone sits. And if you've ever traveled on a train car in Alaska, I know a lot of the cruise lines have their own bi-level cars like this. Ours are quite a bit more luxurious, and we hold fewer people on the same size car. So upstairs we can sit, depending on the car, but up to 70 people. And then downstairs, where I'm pointing on the left-hand side, that is a large kitchen. And then where you see the windows, that's the dining area. And then on the other side of that, it's actually behind it, there is a staircase and a lift for going up and down. And there are 2 restrooms. And look at this. This is an outdoor viewing platform. So that is just absolutely great. So you can get out, get some fresh air and some, really wonderful pictures. I have found if you're traveling upstairs and you put your camera right up against the glass, you can really get beautiful photos. So keep that in mind while you're traveling. And here's a really good look at the inside of that coach. So this is looking forward, and you can see all the way forward is the barred snack setup that our hosts use and everything that they need to do business, right? And they have their own little private stairwell here, so they can run up and down directly into the kitchen and bring up hot cookies or hot scones, that kind of thing, when we're serving snacks. So they also have their whole PA system up there as well. The staircase and the lift is a little bit towards the back of the train, so you can't actually see it in this photo. So let me explain the meal. So as soon as we get rolling in the morning, half the coach upstairs will go downstairs for their breakfast. So you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to have to wait for breakfast. I'm going to be hungry, but no. Those hosts will be bringing up those hot scones and coffees and teas and juices. So you'll get your first course of your breakfast upstairs, and then 3 more when you get downstairs. So don't worry about being hungry. And then if you're first sitting the first day, you'll be second sitting the second day. Same thing for lunch. They'll start pouring wines, bringing out hors d'oeuvre trays, and you'll have a first lunch course upstairs before you go downstairs. If you have a need to eat at the same time every day, just let Jon and his team know, and we can accommodate that, any special dietary needs that you have. So this is a look at what the downstairs dining room looks like. We have tables for 4 and tables for 2. They look slightly different from this right now in that we've put up plexiglass walls between the booths just for COVID's sake. So just know that we're taking every precaution on these trains available to us. So you have a menu to select from. So you have 4 or 5 entrees to choose from. There's always vegetarian on the menu. So you have waiters that will come by, take your order, and the hot things will be cooked fresh after you order it and delivered to you as soon as it's ready, so it stays hot. So it's a wonderful dining experience. And again, that viewing platform, everybody really enjoys that. So, you know, this is unique to Rocky Mountaineer, and you can only find them on our gold leaf trains. So, you know, once we leave the station, we'll have a big send off. You'll toast your fellow travelers on the train. It's very social. So you'll find that people don't stay in their seats. They're wandering back and forth, looking at the sights on either side of the train. And we'll start out in Vancouver. We'll go through some very verdant valleys where they grow grapes and fruits and vegetables. And then we'll hit the coastal mountains and then carry on into the Cascade Mountains. So all along we're following rivers. When you realize that these tracks were built, you know, in the late 1800s, that's how they traversed the landscape, was by following the rivers, because the rivers had already carved a path through these mountains. And there's some spectacular sights along the way. This bottom left-hand picture is Hell's Gate. Where, you know, we can't stop the train on the tracks, but we'll slow down to Kodak speed so you can take pictures, and we'll give you warnings ahead of time. So also I should note that all the employees on our trains are mic'd up. They've got these little earbuds in their ears. And so if anyone, from one of the train conductors to a guest to a host, spots wildlife, the whole train consist or train set knows about it immediately. And so they'll just say, okay, everybody look to the right, you know, there's a bear and her cub, that kind of thing. So, you know, it gets pretty exciting on the train. So at the end of the day, oh, I should point out too that, you know, after you get out of the Cascade Mountains, it's very much like the geology is like the US. So you come to an almost desert-like area that's full of these red canyons, and it comes into the town of Kamloops. So Kamloops is actually where most of we own our own train sets, so they all live there, you know, that's where our yard is. And so, you know, we come into this little town of Kamloops, and it's where two branches of a river come together, and it's a vibrant little town where they have lots of parks you can walk to, and your hotels will be right downtown, where you can, you know, walk to these great restaurants and venues if you're there and you like a good brewski. I highly recommend the Pig restaurant. So it's called the Noble Pig Brew Pub. So again, while you've had two great meals and snacks during the day on the train, a lot of people say, you know, I'm too hungry when I get off the train to eat a full dinner. So they'll go to like the Noble Pig and get a bowl of soup, you know, in a cocktail or a wine or a big glass of iced tea, whatever. So, but again, remember I said you're going to, you know, get off the train. You're going to have the keys before you get off. You're going to be whisked to your hotel, which is only 4 or 5 blocks away at most. And you'll walk into your hotel room, and there you'll find your bag. So you don't have to waste time checking into a hotel. You can go right out and hit the streets. So anyway, I do want to point out in Kamloops that we don't know your hotel ahead of time. It's a fine dance our inventory people have to play to make sure that the right cars line up with the right hotels and the right motor coaches, but they're all very similar. But like I said, there are no luxury hotels in this town. So you're going to be staying in a lodge of some sort, but I guarantee you're going to have fun there. So the next morning, you're going to pack your bag, leave it in your hotel room again, and we're going to whisk you off to the train. Well, you'll join your fellow travelers for your second day of your train trip. So, you know, it's such a, like, I think this picture is good because the host is probably entertaining them and doing a toast and telling them stories, and many of them are quite amusing, but they'll be telling you about the geology and the history and what the original pioneers went through to go out to the West Coast, as well as what the indigenous people's were like as well. So you'll get back on, you already know each other, and you're going to follow these rivers again. And this is a lot what the day looks like, because you'll be leaving Kamloops, which is a little bit more arid, and pretty quickly starting to climb towards the Rocky Mountains. You'll be following these rivers and traversing back and forth. People ask me, what's the best side of the train to sit on? And there is no good side. I mean, they're both the best side, because you're going back and forth. You know, sometimes you'll have a mountain on one side and sometimes the river, and then you'll go across and it'll be the opposite. So this is much of what it looks like. Along the way, we'll be passing very slowly by Craigellachie, and you'll be hearing stories about the building of the Canadian Pacific Railroad. And this is actually the spot where they pounded in that last spike. So it's an historical spot. And along the way, starting from day one, you'll be hearing about the competition of CP and CN Rail, you know, trying to be the first to go out to the West Coast. And this piece of track between Kamloops and the Canadian Rockies, only Rocky Mountaineer were the only passenger train allowed to travel on this particular piece of track. So this whole day, we do share it with freight trains, but you know, it is just spectacular, one of a kind scenery. So like, here's a little shot of the train. This is in the Vermilion Lakes area. One thing I learned, I've worked in Alaska for 20 years, working for a cruise line, and I was up there all the time. And I didn't realize that salmon spawn all the way up into the base of the Canadian Rockies. So these Vermilion Lakes, when you're going, I think in late August, there will be some salmon runs there. And what's great about that, because you're following the rivers and going across these lakes, you're going to see the salmon spawning, and that'll bring out the wildlife for the free smorgasbord. So that's always, you know, quite entertaining. So, I wanted to point out too, this train right now, you know, if you're going eastbound like you guys are doing, you're headed into the western slopes. So there is a piece of the mountains there that CP tried for, you know, almost 20 years trying to safely get over the pass. It's Kicking Horse Pass, which is right at the Continental Divide. And they really couldn't master it. So I think they brought some Swiss engineers over who were used to building a lot of railroads through mountains, and they engineered what we call the spiral tunnels. So on this trip, you will actually be traveling on these spiral tunnels, which were engineered perfectly in like between 1903 and 1906 by Swiss engineers without computers. I'll never understand how they did it, but they started at the top and from the bottom, and the spirals met perfectly inside the mountains in the middle. So you'll go into a mountain, you'll spiral inside that mountain and come out more towards the top of the mountain. Then you'll spiral into the base of another mountain and spiral inside up higher, and that's how you get over the pass. So it's really, you know, something that not very many people get to do, since we're the only train allowed to go through it. And then once you do that, and you go through some more mountains, things flatten out. And once you see Castle Mountain here, you know you're almost home to Lake Louise. So after that second day, you'll be, whoops, I don't think I can. John, do you have any experience with videos? Do they play okay? Or I guess it depends on everybody's internet
They
connection.
seem to.
Okay, let me show a short video of what this route looks like. So it may drag a
As the
little bit
vibrancy of
depending on your
Vancouver
internet
slowly
speed.
evaporates in the distance, the majestic coast mountains rise up to greet you. And you find yourself on a historic journey that retraces the route of the great 19th century explorers. Let your imagination travel along with a first pioneers, across rushing rivers, through magnificent canyons, alongside sheer rock faces, but with the unparalleled luxury and service the early explorers could never dream of. Marvel in awe as you cut through ancient gray-green volcanic rocks that are 200 million years old. Well, give or take a million. Now you find yourself back in 1885 at Craigellachie, the famous site of the last spike, where Canada's east and west were finally united by 3,200 kilometers of track. With vivid historic imagery still in your mind, the awe-inspiring natural beauty continues to unfold before your eyes. Like those who came before you, your journey follows the Kicking Horse River deep into the breathtaking Canadian Rockies. Here's your chance to bring out your inner landscape photographer. Next up, the legendary spiral tunnels, which opened in 1909. Twist your way through the engineering marvel that proved to be the most difficult terrain to break on Canada's railroad. By now, you're as steeped in history as the vertical drops of the magnificent mountains you pass by. Postcard images continue to appear around every bend until eventually, world-famous Banff comes into view. And you're left wondering how it's possible to travel both forwards and backwards in time. The first passage to the west. Now, who says you can't travel through time?
Okay, I hope that played okay for you. I know it varies depending on internet speed, but so this is where you're going to spend your next night. So you spent the night before in Kamloops and you had your second day on the train. And here you are at Lake Louise. And I know probably over the years, you've seen many pictures of this spectacular lake. And we'll be spending the night at the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise. You know, it's just a beautiful castle-like building that the railroad built, you know, way back in the day in order to entice people from the eastern side of Canada out to the west. So these parks around here were the first national parks that Canada designated, and they did their best to entice people out there. And the people who did come, you know, what spectacular scenery. These lakes are all over the place. You know, there are hundreds of them, and you'll see many of them. I wanted to show you this picture because there are rooms on every side of this chateau. If you don't have a room facing the lake, rest assured that all the public rooms do face the lake. This is a picture I shot at twilight at one of the bars looking out onto the lake. The dining rooms are the same way, and a lot of sitting rooms and card rooms and that sort of thing. But it's a great place to really get outdoors. You can, I want to mention that you could actually, there are hiking trails around the lake. So in August, you know, if you're up to it, you can go for a canoe ride. But I have to tell you, this lake doesn't thaw out until the first week in June every year. So it's pretty cold water, but there's a hike up to a tea room with a great platform for viewing up there. So if you're up for that, that is a great thing to do. So the next day, we're going to take you out on a tour. So what's really great about this area is not just the hotels or the towns, you know, you're there for the national parks and the scenery. You know, I take travel agents up there all the time and they say, oh, this looks just like Switzerland. And it's very similar, except the altitude here is lower. The altitude is lower than our Colorado Rockies. So I found that to be a benefit now that I'm aging, to be, hiking around or walking around in a lower altitude. But you'll see so many fabulous sights that nature has created for us. And then we're going to stop and have lunch at Emerald Lake Lodge. So this is one of my favorite lodges up there. It's in the middle of nowhere, and this particular lake is aptly named. So instead of being real turquoise, it's really a deep, deep green. It's really great, and everything is so serene. So you'll have this little complex here with a great restaurant that looks out over these mountains and lakes, and have your lunch there. It's a great place to really unwind. And then once you finish all your touring and your lunch, we'll drop you off in downtown Banff. So Banff National Park was actually the very first UNESCO protected park. Since then, all these parks in the surrounding area have been designated as UNESCO. So they're very careful about preserving everything in these parks. So when you go down the highway into Banff, you'll notice what looks like parks going over the tops of the highway, the Icefields Parkway, and that's for the wildlife, so they can safely get over the highway without getting hit. So their migration patterns and hunting patterns are not disturbed. So it's a beautiful area. Your hotel is right here on Main Street. So Banff has this one main street with great little shops and pubs and fun things to do. And you're going to be staying at the Banff Caribou Lodge and Spa. And one thing I like about this particular property is they give you a free pass for Rome. So Rome is a hop-on, hop-off bus that goes up and down Main Street. Plus, it goes out to some trailheads. Here's a little picture I found of Rome. It's not very clear, but this is what it looks like. It's obvious when it comes by. You just hop on and hop off wherever you want to. You can go out to the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel, have a cocktail or, have dinner there if you want to. And it also takes you out to these trailheads if you just, want to wander along the river and into some of the wilderness areas. So you'll overnight there, and the next day we're going to pick you up and we're going to take you up on this sky ride that takes you to the top of this mountain that overlooks. On one side, this is the Bow Valley where the town of Banff is. And on the other side, when you get to the top, you'll look out over mountaintops and ice fields as far as the eye can see. It will just take your breath away. And there is a natural history museum on the, at the top where the tram stops. And there's a Starbucks and a couple of little restaurants up there. So people have a hard time tearing themselves away from it and coming back down the mountain again. It's a must see. So after we do that, we'll tour down the Icefields Parkway again, a couple of hours. It will take us to get into Calgary. And as we come into Calgary, we're going to stop at Heritage Park. This is a living history museum, and it's on a confluence of two different rivers, and there'll be lots of things to explore and do, but we'll have a great lunch here as well. So they are limiting the amount of people in there these days, but so don't feel like there's going to be crowds there, but everybody says they enjoy this park. So there's so many interesting people working there, docents that can tell you, all about the history of Western Canada. So here's Calgary, like Vancouver, very metropolitan center, but very easy to get into the outdoors. So this town, I've been going here for years, and it sort of reminded me in the early years of Houston. They're known for, at one time, was the world's largest rodeo. It's all about, I think Houston's is larger now, but they still do this every year. But there's a lot of travel between Houston and Calgary because of oil and cattle. But downtown, we'll be staying right downtown and within walking distance of museums and art galleries galleries, and you'll find art on almost every corner downtown in this city. So we'll be staying at the Delta, which is a Marriott hotel. That's just around in Canada. So it'll be in the heart of everything. And I have one little 1-minute video that has no talking in it, just to remind you of the sites that you will see when traveling in Canadian Rockies. Okay, I'm ready to go back. It's been 2 years for me, so. Let's talk a little bit about COVID. So, we've had a couple of years to install the latest technology on our trains for cleaning. They're the electrostatic type cleanings, plus we're constantly cleaning. We're making you use hand sanitizers at the top and the bottom of the stairs, and anytime you go into the dining room. Now, the thing about Canada, it's sort of a moving thing because they change it as far as the border controls. So in order to go to Canada, you do have to be fully vaccinated and have proof of full vaccination. So at the moment, there's a website that you go onto and register before you go. And you can do this pretty well in advance and upload, your vaccination cards and that kind of thing, and answer a few simple questions. On and off again, you do have to have a test 72 hours before you go in. They dropped that for a little while. Now they reinstigated it because of the new variant that's out there. But everything could change by August. So it's a moving target for us to have to chase down. So Jon and I will be keeping you abreast of the situation. We'll send out a question and answer sheet that is appropriate for now so that you can all take a look at it and make an informed decision. So I know Jon has been traveling on cruise ships where everyone had to be vaccinated, and it's been pretty successful. So I wanted to let you know that we did start up Canada in mid-July of last year, and we started up in a new route that we were testing in the US out of Denver in mid-August, and we didn't have any cases of COVID. So, we try not to fill the trains, if if there are a lot of people showing signs of having the virus at that time period. So we'll, spread them out. We have plenty of train cars. So, as far as the history of the company, we had a 5-year plan that we started in 2018 to expand our routes because we had so many clients who've gone on the Canadian Rockies product several times, and they wanted us to do it somewhere else. So we thought naturally the Colorado Rockies would be something we would know how to do, right? So we tested it starting in late August for a couple of months. We have since completely revised the off the train program. But we can only use Silverleaf cars there. So I know some of you have experienced that this last year. So when you were looking at the videos, you saw some single level cars. So we operate both Gold Leaf and Silverleaf in Canada and just Silverleaf in the US. But because we knew we were going to be opening up new destinations, in the past 5 years, we've been collecting new rail cars. So we have them built in Germany with Swiss parts, and they're just really great cars. So we've had some sitting in our rail yard that have never been used, that are brand new. So we have the ability to add more cars if we need to space out people more. So I guess that's my point. So I'm a rambler. John, go ahead.
Oh, well, I wanted to go back real quick just to COVID, to kind of clarify. When I went on the Mississippi River cruise, that was a MOAA charter, and everybody on that was fully vaccinated. And we did not have a mask requirement on board because the crew and everyone in our group was vaccinated. When we did the Rocky Mountaineer group in September of last year, everybody was fully vaccinated, but there was not an onboard mask requirement, if I remember correctly. I was not on that one. But on the Royal Caribbean cruises I went on in August and just last week, it wasn't fully vaccinated because Royal Caribbean allows families to take their kids. So it was everyone over the age of 12 was vaccinated, just to kind of clarify that. But one of the things I wanted to talk about that you touched on, Joanne, is the difficulty of talking now about what the requirements are. And right now, if you leave the United States and you come back into the country, the United States requires you to have a negative test before you return to the country. And that will eventually go away. The question just is when. And even if it does go away, would it ever come back? For the 2 Royal Caribbean cruises I went on, when I booked the cruise, there was not a mask mandate. And then they instituted it a few weeks before I went in August. And then, everything seemed to be dying down and they got rid of the mask mandate. And then a few weeks, I think about a month before I went on this cruise on January 9th, they sent everybody a notice and said that they were bringing back the mask mandate. And the reason I bring that up is we had a couple questions, during the webinar where people ask that, and it's not an easy thing to answer because all we can ever do is tell you what the current requirements are. And as I said, if you got a hold of me at the 1st of December and said, is Royal Caribbean requiring masks to sail, I would have said, no, Royal Caribbean's not currently requiring masks. A few days later, they decided because of Omicron to reinstitute it. So I know everyone kind of wants the answers to those questions. The problem we have is even the answer of right now may change and then change again in the future, as we have seen. Now, what we saw last summer was, COVID, like all the different types of flus, is more prevalent in the wintertime. We would have every anticipation that this summer would be similar, if not considerably better than last summer. But of course, we have no real control over that. So always bear that in mind when you're looking at a trip and they tell you what the protocols are, is they always can change. And I just wanted, living in Kansas, I gotta tell you, one of the first things that Joanne said about the weather in August, it is brutal in most of the country, particularly in the Midwest in August, weather-wise. And I can't tell you how much I literally, we left Kansas last August and went to the Caribbean for better weather than Kansas, just because of the heat and humidity. So it is a great time to go. I personally did not select this itinerary. I know Joanne said that. And that's probably the impression that Rocky Mountaineer has, because I'm the one who contacted and set this up. But we actually listened to the members. We had a lot of feedback from people when we put this together of what we wanted to do. We, in fact, had a Canadian Rockies group set up for 2020 that was canceled or suspended, I guess I would say. because of COVID. And, the feedback we got from members is, this is the itinerary we wanted. We absolutely wanted to go eastbound. These are the stops that everybody wanted to know. So I think it is a great itinerary. It's an itinerary that, your fellow members selected. I have gotten a few messages. Mike is in charge of this. And whenever Joanne says, let Jon know, it's actually let Mike know, is who you want to know if you have any diet or any of those types of questions. In fact, any questions you have on the stretch is for Mike. Mike's been kind of keeping me updated. As of 15-20 minutes ago, we'd had 6 people already sign up. So we do have a train car. Joanne, what is the capacity of a train car?
The gold leaf cars goes from 60 to 70, depending on which car it is.
Okay, because we are holding 35 spaces, correct? Or no, 37 spaces, 18 double rooms and 1 single room, which I think is our own car. So when you talked about reduced capacity, we'll double check that and let everybody know.
You will, yeah, you'll have your own motor coach for sure.
Yeah, okay. And maybe that's what the number was based on.
I think that was what that was for, right?
Yeah, and one other thing I thought of just as you were talking when you mentioned that you don't overnight on the train, way back. To give you an idea how long ago it was when I was in college and I went to Europe for the first time. I actually slept on a train for the first time, and it made my dorm room look luxurious. So I certainly don't think, not only just seeing the scenery, but you're going to have a much more enjoyable experience staying in a really nice hotel with amazing restaurants and views as you would on the train. I assume you mentioned that because people have asked before if you overnight on the train. It's certainly something you don't want to do. But anyway, to kind of get back to where we are on the presentation, this is the slide, and I know I talked about this earlier. And one thing, because we're kind of coming to the end, and I know some people came in late, and I know some people mentioned they were having some pixelation problem. We are going to send everybody a copy of this presentation. So if you had any problems with the videos, or if you came in late, we'll actually send you the entire video so you can rewatch it. As I said at the beginning, when we say join your fellow MOAA members, I always at this point want to make sure we let everybody know once again that it is open to MOAA members and their guests. So you can bring as many friends and families as you want to on any trip you book through MOAA, including group departures like this. So let us know, if you have friends and family want to go, feel free to share the video with them as well. And then if you go to the next slide, is the last thing we always talk about is singles. And there are, I think, 68,000 single members of MOAA. And so we have a single share program. Now, as I just mentioned in our group, the space that we're holding, we have 18 double rooms and we have 1 single room that we're holding. There is an increase in the price. A single supplement is the term that a lot of you who travel single are going to know to travel as a single. What we've put together, what we do for MOAA members is we kind of do a share program. And all we really do in this is we kind of do introductions. So we'll have somebody contact us, and we'll just use this trip as an example, where if you're traveling as a single and you don't want to play the supplement, or let's say the 1 single room we have is gone, that someone will contact us and say, I'd be interested in sharing a room with a fellow MOAA member. It's not a dating service, so it's going to be somebody of the same sex, but all we do is if we have 1 gentleman who wants to go on this as a single and is looking to avoid a single supplement and be paired with the fellow MOAA member, what we'll do is we'll put that information out there. We work through the MOAA Surviving Spouse Association, our virtual chapter, and we'll introduce you. And we've had great success with this on other group departures, where you actually will have the opportunity to talk to the person via email or phone if you guys reach that part. And we have people who have met this way and then have become travel companions to go on future trips together. So definitely, if you're a single, let us know right away. If you'd like to try avoiding the single supplement on this, or really any MOAA trip, Royal Caribbean just announced, I don't know if everybody saw this, and we talked about this in last week's webinar, but they have a 274-day around the world cruise in 2023, which includes a 2-night free cruise. So it's really 276 days. And we've actually already sold a couple of those to MOAA members, but we had a single MOAA female contact us and asked if we thought we could find her a roommate. And to me, that's just really gutsy. It's not an 8-day train trip. It is a 276-day trip where you're looking for someone to join you on that. So any trip that you have on, we'll certainly try. We've just had a lot more success if it's a group departure like we have today, where we had 120 people or whatever it was sign up for this webinar. So we have that many people that we're talking to. So definitely to all you singles out there, or if you have friends or family who are singles, let us know. We're always willing to help in any way we can. With that being said, I saw that Mike answered a bunch of questions as we were going through this. We really only have 5 more minutes. Joanne, did you see any questions that Mike or I didn't answer that we might want to address in our last few minutes? Or did we pretty much cover everything?
I think we did, except for price. And I see, it looks like Mike maybe put in a link to the flyer that has.
I put in a link, yeah. And the prices listed is the double occupancy rate. There is a single occupancy rate. And I know I just talked about this, but I do see there was a question that someone asked that I wanted to wait to answer until we got to this point, and that's our mask required on the train. My assumption would be, since we're in the middle of Omicron right now, that masks are currently required, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Well, it depends. It's really weird. In the US, masks are required, but I think because our government in the US has not required vaccinations for trains, but I think they're getting ready to change that. So
in Canada, where it's required everyone's vaccinated, are masks required on board?
They have not been at this moment, right?
Yeah, and as I said, when I saw that question in the chat, I didn't want to answer it because it's not an easy answer. Because so what we can say is, currently, to go on the Canadian Rockies, you need to be vaccinated, but masks are not required. Who knows by August if eventually we'll get away, I would assume, from vaccinations being required. I saw the CDC said a few weeks ago that in 2022 that everyone is just, I don't know if assuming is the right word. They basically said in 2022 that COVID would be reclassified no longer a pandemic because of the number of people who have been vaccinated and the number of people that have actually have the natural immunity after contracting it.
Immunity.
No longer be a pandemic. So I think we're moving in that direction. It's just difficult to say.
It is difficult to say. One other thing that we've been doing is we've been doing at check-in, we've been doing those fast tests free of charge. So that was just an extra precaution we've been taking. So and then the US government, you'll be flying out of Calgary, and I have the feeling by August they may drop this requirement, but there's a testing site in the Calgary airport, and John's team can help you set up appointments. When you go to the airport, you go into the testing area, you have your results in like 20 to 25 minutes. Then you go through US immigrations with that card, and you get, you go into your boarding area. So in Canada, you do pre-clear US customs in Canada. So there's an area of the airport in Calgary that is US designated soil.
There was a question on, do you need to purchase Canadian money? Unless things have changed, and perhaps you can speak to this. I've never had an issue in Canada of them not accepting US currency. But like any country you travel to, if you go to an ATM and you put in your ATM card, if you withdraw cash in Canada, you're going to withdraw Canadian dollars like you would in Europe, that you'd withdraw euros if you withdraw cash. I was most everything's included. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of places. I mean, credit cards aren't going to be an issue as far as cash. I don't know, Joanne. I mean, if they're off the beaten track countries, sometimes we recommend that people get foreign currency in advance. I certainly don't think that's would be required for Canada. Do you?
Yeah, so here's my thought. So when I go up there and go on the trip, you know, there's a cash machine right out of the customs area at the Vancouver airport. I just walk over there. I think it's Bank of Montreal, and I use my debit card, and I get $100 Canadian. That pulls usually between $70 and $75, depending on, you know, the exchange rate out of my bank account at home. I like to have the carrying around cash because I don't always want to pull out a credit card, you know, for everything, a cup of coffee or something, but they will take US dollars, but they won't give you the exchange rate. So you won't get as much in return. So I wouldn't buy anything big in US dollars with cash. You'll lose your exchange.
Or if they do an exchange, it's never a favorable one. So and
right.
Last question, and then we'll go. And once again, everyone should have our number. It'll be included in the email we're going to send out to everyone with on it. But if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. I think, and the last one was on meals included. And if you click on that link where it goes to the flyer that's online, it does mention that. And it's meals and beverages on board. So when you're on the train, that's included. Breakfast daily at the hotel, and then we have 2 group lunches and 1 group dinner. And as I said, we pretty much tried to make sure we included everything on that on flyer. So if you get a chance to read through that, or it's always easier, I think, just to give Mike a call. Mike a call and ask him any of your questions that you might have. But if you look at the day-to-day, it even points out the times that those group lunches and that 1 group dinner is. Otherwise, you're on your own at the meals to eat when and where you'd like. So anyway, with that being said, we are just a minute over time. We try to keep these right within that 1-hour window. So when we post them. So on behalf of myself and everyone at MOAA Vacations, I want to thank everybody for attending today. We want to be your travel agent of choice for all of your vacation travel. So please give us a call. We do cruises, tours, hotels, resorts, and anything that you would like to do for your vacation. We're here to help. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joanne for the last word.
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me and for your time today. I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to let you know I'm going to leave this slide up for a while before I end the show, so that has the toll-free number and the email address in case you have any further questions. But gosh, I hope that you can join us, and I know you'll enjoy this area as much as I do. It's really amazing. So anyway, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.